Have you ever felt the chilling whisper of a question deep within your soul? A question that asks if the very freedom you cherish is nothing more than a gilded cage. What if the identity you perform every single day, the roles you've been taught to play as a man, are not a path to fulfillment, but a meticulously crafted illusion? A spiritual masquerade designed to keep your divine essence shackled in chains of approval? If this resonates with the deepest part of your being, if you've ever felt like an actor on a stage you didn't choose, then you are in the right place at the right time. This is not a coincidence. It is an awakening. Stay with me on this journey, and if you feel the truth of these words vibrating within you, let the universe know by liking this message, subscribing for more guidance, and sharing your own moment of clarity in the comments below. You are not alone in this feeling. The great existential philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre unveiled a terrifying and liberating truth. Man is condemned to be free. Because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. This is not a curse, but a sacred decree. It means that your identity is not a pre-written script you are handed at birth. It is not something fixed or innate. It is a performance, a constant act of creation, forged in the fire of your every choice, your every action, your every thought. And nowhere is this performance more brutally and subtly enforced than within the modern archetype of the femininity, a role so exquisitely crafted over centuries that it has transformed the sacred dance of relationship into a theater of manipulation, a silent, psychological prison designed to keep the masculine spirit in a perpetual state of servitude. By the end of our time together, you will see through this divine illusion. The veil will be lifted, and you will never again fall victim to the silent, undeclared war of societal expectations. You will find the key to your own cage. This is your moment of awakening. This is the beginning of your true freedom. Let us journey back, not just through the pages of history books, but through the energetic currents that have shaped our reality. For centuries, a silent, powerful agreement has been in place. An unspoken social contract that has dictated the flow of power between the masculine and feminine energies. This isn't a conspiracy theory whispered in the dark. It is the very fabric of our history. A history you have been lied to about. You have been told a story of oppression, a simple narrative where men are the eternal villains and women the perpetual victims. But what if the truth is far more complex, far more strategic? What if, beneath the veneer of vulnerability, women have always been the master architects of their own power, the gatekeepers of society's most valuable resource, legacy itself? From the gilded medieval courts to the manicured suburban homes of the 1950s, this contract has remained the same. Kings waged wars, knights spilled their lifeblood on forgotten fields, and philosophers scribbled doctrines that would shape empires, all under the watchful, discerning eyes of queens and mistresses. History remembers the names of the men who ruled, but it conveniently forgets the women who ruled the rulers. Eleanor of Aquitaine didn't need a throne to shape the destinies of England and France. She wielded her influence through the sacred bonds of marriage, the subtle art of seduction, and the quiet, potent manipulation of male desire. This isn't ancient history. It is the blueprint. For most of human existence, marriage was not an institution of love. It was a wealth transfer, a strategic alliance. Dowries, inheritance laws, and social status were the tools of the trade, instruments used by women and their families to secure resources and ensure their bloodline's survival. And what was the man's role in this grand transaction? He was the provider, the protector, the disposable asset. He was expected to provide, to protect, and, if necessary, to die, often in that precise order, all to uphold his end of this sacred, unspoken bargain. Picture, if you will, the idealized 1950s housewife, often presented as the pinnacle of femininity, the angel of the house, soft-spoken, nurturing, utterly devoted. A beautiful, comforting image, is it not? But you must peel back the curtain of this carefully constructed stage play. That image was not organic. It was not a natural state of being. It was manufactured with the cold precision of an assembly line. In the aftermath of the Second World War, governments and corporations needed a massive social shift. They needed women to return to the home to free up jobs for the returning soldiers. And so, the machine of culture was put to work. Media, advertisements, and even the burgeoning field of psychology were weaponized to sell the myth of the natural caregiver, to glorify domesticity as a woman's highest calling. This was not a choice. It was a brilliantly executed marketing campaign for a life of prescribed purpose. Now, fast forward to today. The script has flipped, but the game, the underlying energetic dynamic, remains fundamentally the same. The stage has changed, the costumes are different, but the play continues. Today, women are told they must be independent, fierce, unapologetically powerful. They are the boss babes, the conquerors of the corporate world. Yet ask yourself this soul-searching question. How many truly choose this new role from a place of authentic inner alignment, versus how many are simply performing the latest, most socially rewarded version of the script? This is what Sartre identified as bad faith, the profound act of lying to yourself to escape the terrifying, overwhelming burden of absolute freedom. You see, the system doesn't care which script you follow, as long as you are following one. Whether it's the demure Victorian maiden or the power-suited feminist, every era demands a new act, a new performance. And men? They are the conditioned audience, trained from birth to applaud on cue, to validate the performance, and to pay the price of admission with their energy, their resources, and their very life force. Now, let's bring this into your personal reality, because this is where the chains become visible. Imagine you are dating a woman who claims she yearns for a strong, traditional man. You, wanting to fulfill her desires and win her approval, step into that role. You become the provider, the protector, the unwavering pillar of stability she claims to seek. You pour your energy into building a fortress for her heart. Then, 6 months into this performance, the script changes. She accuses you of being too controlling, too rigid, too overbearing. Confused, you backtrack. You attempt to adopt a more modern, egalitarian approach, only to be met with a new complaint. I need a man who leads, a man who takes charge. Do you see the trap? It's a game with no finish line, a labyrinth with no exit, designed to keep you constantly striving, constantly performing, constantly pouring your energy into a bottomless vessel. But understand this crucial truth. This is not her fault. She is trapped too, a prisoner of the same system, playing a role she has been taught her entire life. Society has conditioned her to believe that her femininity is a series of masks, each one designed to be worn at the perfect moment to extract maximum value and security from men. And you, my friend, are the casualty in this grand, tragic play. Sartre's warning echoes through the halls of time. Hell is other people, not because they are inherently evil, but because their performances, their judgments, and their expectations become the very bars of your psychological prison. But here is the question no one dares to ask, the question that can shatter the very foundations of this reality. What if women are not the primary victims of this system, but its most ruthless, unconscious enforcers? And what happens when a man finally awakens to this truth? The system is terrified of men waking up. This is not hyperbole. It is a fundamental truth of our modern world. There is a silent, invisible war being waged against male consciousness. It is not fought with bullets or laws, but with far more insidious weapons: shame, mockery, and the slow, grinding erosion of a man's purpose. The moment a man begins to question the script, the moment he starts to reject the roles he has been assigned, he becomes a threat. And in this system, all threats must be neutralized. Consider the relentless messaging of the last few decades. The bumbling, incompetent dad in sitcoms, the moral panic over toxic masculinity, the endless parade of male villains in films and television. This is not accidental, it is strategic. For centuries, societies controlled men through the noble concept of honor. A man would endure backbreaking labor, wage bloody wars, even die young, all for the promise of respect and a legacy that would outlive him. But in our modern world, honor has been replaced with its insidious shadow, guilt. Modern men are told they are inherently flawed, that their very nature is dangerous, that they must apologize for their existence. Why? because a guilty man is a compliant man. A shamed man is an easily controlled man. Sartre saw this manipulation with crystal clarity. He wrote that bad faith isn't just a simple act of self-deception. It is the prison that others build for you. And the most effective prisons are always the ones where the inmates police themselves. Think of the so-called liberation of the 1960s. Contraception, free love, the dismantling of traditional roles. Men cheered. They thought they had won the lottery sex without commitment, pleasure without responsibility. But they missed the fine print in this new social contract. Women didn't give up their power, they simply redistributed it. Before the sexual revolution, women often traded sex for security. After, they began to trade it for leverage. Now a woman could sample men like a diner at an endless buffet, discarding the ones who wouldn't commit, keeping the ones who would on an emotional leash, and always maintaining the upper hand. The rise of dating apps has turned this dynamic into a cold, industrial-scale operation. Sartre foresaw this spiritual decay. He wrote that in a world without fixed, transcendent meaning, people inevitably turn each other into objects. And what is modern dating, if not the ultimate marketplace, where men are reduced to a collection of utilities providers, entertainers, emotional tampons, while women remain the ultimate gatekeepers of intimacy and validation? The nice guy wasn't rewarded, he was despised. This wasn't female hypocrisy, it was raw, unfiltered human nature. Desire isn't rational. It doesn't care about fairness or political correctness. It responds to power, to mystery, to self-containment. The system knew this. It understood this primal truth and deliberately set men up to fail, engineering a society that systematically demasculinizes them on every level. Physically, the assault is relentless. Testosterone levels in men have plummeted by 50% in the last 50 years. Processed foods laden with endocrine disruptors, sedentary lifestyles, and a world designed for comfort have turned men into pale shadows of their warrior ancestors. Mentally, the programming is just as pervasive. Young boys are often drugged into compliance for exhibiting natural, energetic behaviors, now labeled as ADHD. Male ambition is pathologized as toxic. Vulnerability is twisted and sold as the new strength, creating a generation of men who are emotionally open but structurally weak, easy to manipulate and control. Spiritually, the void is vast. Religion, once a primary source of meaning and purpose for men, has been replaced with mindless consumerism and the empty escapism of video games and pornography. The result? A generation of men who have never tasted real struggle, and thus have never discovered their true, unshakable strength. They are lost, adrift in a sea of meaningless choices, clinging to the validation of women as their only lighthouse. This is what Sartre called spiritual castration, the process of convincing a man that his deepest, most primal instincts are shameful. A castrated man doesn't rebel. He consumes. He obeys. He apologizes. But what if there is a way out? What if the key to this prison has been in your pocket all along? Now, we expose the one psychological weapon that women and the system fear most, and we reveal how you can use it to break free from the script forever. There is a moment in every man's life, a critical juncture, when the illusion shatters. Maybe it happens when the woman he would die for casually mentions she's exploring her options. Or perhaps it's the slow, dawning realization that all his sacrifices, all his hard work, were never currency in the economy of love, but merely foolish donations to a system designed to drain him. That moment is agony. It is a descent into the void. But it is also the birthplace of true, unassailable power. Because once a man sees the game for what it is, he can no longer be played. This is the fork in the road. One path leads down into bitterness and resentment, a lifetime spent blaming the world for the rules of a game he willingly played. The other path leads up to sovereignty. Sartre called this radical freedom. It is the terrifying, exhilarating realization that no role, no expectation, no inherited script can define you unless you allow it. Most men never claim this freedom. They spend their entire lives auditioning for a part in a play they will never win, a role that was designed for them to lose. But the rare few who do, they become unstoppable. History's most dangerous and influential men shared one essential trait. They were unpredictable. Not because they were cruel, but because they refused to perform. Genghis Khan didn't beg for loyalty. He inspired it through his unwavering vision. Casanova didn't chase women. He created a reality so compelling that they chased him. These men understood a fundamental, primal truth. Women are not attracted to supplicants. They are attracted to forces of nature. Modern psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. The scarcity principle proves that people intrinsically value what they cannot easily control or predict. The more a man bends to a woman's whims, the more he seeks her approval, the less she respects him. But the moment he becomes a mystery, the moment his happiness and purpose are no longer contingent on her, the moment she cannot predict his next move, something primal within her awakens. This isn't manipulation. It is the natural order of things. It is self-possession. It is the art of becoming unplayable. So how does a man escape the script and achieve this state of being? It rests on three sacred pillars of sovereign masculinity. First, he must destroy the idol. The perfect woman does not exist. She is a cultural hallucination, a composite of male fantasies amplified by corporate marketing and societal programming. Real women are flawed, complex, and often contradictory beings. The sooner a man accepts this, the sooner he stops projecting divinity onto flesh and blood humans and can begin to connect with them on an authentic level. Second, he must embrace sacred solitude. Most men fear being alone because they have never truly met themselves. Their sense of worth is entirely external, defined by female attention and societal approval. But true solitude is not loneliness. It is the crucible where true masculinity is forged. It is in the silence, away from the world's noise, that a man finds his own internal compass. Nietzsche wandered the Alps for years. Van Gogh painted in asylum rooms. These men did not just tolerate isolation, they weaponized it, using it to tap into a source of creativity and power that transcended the world around them. And third, he must create his own meaning. The modern world offers men two hollow options: become a mindless consumer or a rage-fueled reactionary. The existential man, the sovereign man, rejects both. He builds, he fights, he explores. Not for applause, not for validation, but because he understands that creative action is the ultimate antidote to despair and nihilism. He channels his aggression into mastery, into martial arts, entrepreneurship, physical transformation. He understands that a man without a cause is a man easily controlled. The sovereign man is a builder. He leaves something behind: a business, a book, a family, a philosophy. He understands that true immortality isn't about living forever, it is about mattering forever. Here is the hardest truth of all. The system didn't enslave you, you enslaved yourself. Every time you traded your dignity for a crumb of approval, every time you muted your primal instincts to fit in, every time you let fear dictate your choices, you were complicit in forging your own chains. But that is also the good news, because if you built the prison, you hold the power to dismantle it brick by brick. Sartre's greatest insight was this: man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. No excuses, no blame, just raw, terrifying, exhilarating freedom. This is not the end. It is the true beginning. The path of transcendent masculinity isn't a checklist. It is a daily practice, a series of conscious choices that compound over time. Some days you will fail. Some days the world will try to drag you back into the comforting familiarity of the old script. But each time you choose sovereignty over slavery, you become something the system can no longer comprehend: a free man. There comes a moment when a man stops reacting and starts creating. When he stops asking for permission and begins imposing his own reality upon the world. This is not rebellion. It is something far more dangerous to the established order. It is sovereignty. And in a world designed to keep men in cages of approval, seeking and performing, sovereignty is the ultimate act of war. For most of his life, the modern man has been a beggar for love, for validation, for purpose. He has been told that his worth is determined by how well he performs his roles: the good boyfriend, the dutiful worker, the politically correct citizen. But what happens when the roles are stripped away? When the applause fades and he is left alone in the silence? that is when the real journey begins. That is when he enters what Sartre called the desert of existence. It is the terrifying, exhilarating moment when a man realizes no external force can define him, not women, not society, not even his own past. In that desolate space, there is only choice. And in that choice, true, unshakable power is born. This is the ultimate endgame of the male awakening. Are you ready to play?